I'm Yves Bolognini. I'm the director of the Bolo Museum, and you're listening to the Scene World podcast.
Hi, die AJ og Joerg sa du lytter naturligvis til Scene World podcast. That's all the Norwegian that I know.
Norwegian?
Yes.
Nice.
Why not? In a minute, we're up with Robert Bernardo. He is the North American kind of like the I don't even know how you describe him. He's
the user group guy?
Yeah, he's very active in the user group community. He's got his hands in a lot of the 64 scene in the U.S. And as you'll hear when we get to the interview part, there's lots of this that he knows about, and he knows the key figures in there, and he has something to do with a lot of it, and getting his unique perspective on a lot of the different controversies and all the different topics and stuff through the past couple of years is really interesting. So he's up in a little bit. Before that, we might have a few little pieces of news. Not too much. It's been a quiet month, I think.
Yeah. So the Ultimate 64 actually has shipped.
Yes.
Mine was shipped yesterday.
Did you get it?
If it was shipped yesterday.
Today
is Sunday.
I didn't know if you meant that it had been shipped, like it just left, or that you had just gotten it.
Just left.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is nice.
Nice. Yeah.
So if you were among the first pre-orders, you might have actually received it by now. By the time you hear this podcast.
Yeah.
Other bit of news was that Rontel announced, he's working on this CD project from Indiegogo.
Yes.
Indiegogo. Indiegogo, yes.
Yeah, it's
Tell Me
Tell Me More, yeah.
Yes, and that has been delayed. And actually, he announced he's working with his brother on it. Mm-hmm. And he's one of the leading music producers with music charts hits in the Netherlands and worldwide. So they're actually teaming up now to work on this.
Cool.
And he released bits of previews and news about new tracks on the album over the last weeks and months. So that is progressing.
Nifty.
And also the Phase 5 guy actually wrote in the Indiegogo campaign that he tried to work on this project alone with the keycaps and decided he can't do it. So he is teaming up now with
slow down real quick.
Yeah.
So we're talking Phase 5. They had a Kickstarter for producing new keycaps for
Indiegogo.
Right, and they were producing keycaps for the 64, was it?
Yes.
Okay, and they had all this stuff promised, the different colors and what.
Exactly, what I'm talking about. Yes.
This is back when they were making the first run of cases with the weird colored, the bright blue and red and whatnot, and these were
2015.
Yeah, they were talking about making keycaps that would match some of these cases that were coming out back then.
Yep.
And nothing ever happened. Nobody heard anything from them. It was just sort of like it just sort of evaporated, and no one knew anything about it.
Well, they did updates, but irregularly.
Right, and I heard a lot of people I saw a lot of people saying what happened to this, is it still a thing, and a lot of other people saying probably not. It's probably scrapped, and they're not going to do anything with it. But so now we've got updates from them, from the Phase 5
yes,
people.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, there's one guy left. This master guy actually, he was a bit overwhelmed by that, and he said he totally miscalculated and stuff, and all the staff he had paid, they resigned, and so he had to do this all alone. And then he figured he can't, so he's working with a business partner. That is actually having a professional in molding, which is actually what you need for the keycaps.
Okay.
And he said he has a debt of 30,000 euros right now. And he is trying to finish that, and he promised it will be finished. And after that, after every backer got their keycaps, he's actually planning on selling them regularly.
Okay.
To cover the loss he did.
But if he's 30 grand in debt, and I don't know how optimistic I would be that it would be nice to have that happening, but really, keycaps aren't a thing that we're running low on in the 64 scene. I think that's one of those things that even if the whole computer gets scrapped, generally the keycaps are salvageable.
Yeah, except if they are so bad that they are really moldy and stuff.
You know what I would like is for someone to reproduce the boards.
The boards?
The keyboard, the thing that the actual printed circuit board that the keyboard sits on and makes contact with. Because in all the experiences I've had with the keyboards, it's never a issue with the keys or the mechanisms. It's always the contacts on that board getting worn away and not working well anymore.
Mm.
And they haven't made these things in years. And I've seen some people talk about how you can recoat, because I guess the contacts have a small layer of carbon covering them to protect them, and that wears off after you've hit the key, 70,000 times over 30 years. So I've seen some tutorials on how to recode it with stuff to help protect it again, but it's never going to be like new again. And if they could just make that board, and you'd think it would be simple. It's not like it's there's no chips or anything on it. It's just a board with some wires hanging off it. Mm. You'd think that would be somewhat easy to reproduce, but no one has so far.
Yeah, but also interesting to mention that a lot of those campaigns are actually Indiegogo campaigns.
Yeah.
In contrast to Kickstarters,
right,
that are mostly run by people who don't run into financial problems. I mean, look at this. Tell me more. Jarontel, he admitted he lost all the money he got because.
Did he?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
The other news is we could mention. You don't have to cut that out. Is actually Jarontel got his own room in a museum, computer museum.
Oh, yes.
At the place where he lives in Helmond.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
And they actually want to make a room.
Yeah.
A Jarontel room.
That's
pretty awesome.
That is pretty awesome. There's a picture of him if you look online.
Yeah.
We'll link to it in the podcast description maybe. Of him hanging out in the room.
Yep.
So that is pretty cool. So did you hear about this new the new VCS from Atari?
Yes, I'm getting the newsletter.
Yeah. Oh, you're getting a letter, the news from Atari itself?
Yes, I subscribed to that.
Oh, okay. So it's a modern it's called the VCS. It looks similar to the VCS. It's got the same sort of design to it, the same wood grain on it. But it's modern. It's going to be, and this is kind of where it loses me a bit because it's x86 based. It's going to have you're talking about
Z80?
No, X like modern.
Okay.
Words aren't working in my face right now, but yeah, just like a modern x86 platform. 486 Pentium.
Okay, I miss her.
Yeah, like a PC, and it's going to have Steam integration and stuff like that. So it's really just another, bargain bin sort of. I mean, I guess it'll be a powerful games platform, but I'd prefer it if it was something that was unique.
Well, the thing is, if it's going to be a normal platform, how much can it compete against Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony?
Exactly right. It's going to be a living room set-top box that you can. That's just a gaming platform as opposed to your PC or laptop or whatever you normally use to game on. That you can stick next to your Xbox and your PlayStation. But it's not. I don't see how it's going to take a chunk out of it, other than for people that want to say they have an Atari VCS. Interesting too, because I'm not sure how this. Because Atari was a company back in the early '80s, and then Jack Trammell from Commodore actually took over and ran Commodore.
I know.
Ran Atari rather. He ran Atari from the mid '80s to I guess the early '90s. And then they sort of disappeared. They were bought out and became a subsidiary of something else. And so, like, how the lineage of this, how this relates to what Atari was back then, I'm not sure. I'm not certain. But so yeah, put a link in the description for where you can see that and check it out, and maybe you want to get it. Hey, the C64 is out.
I know, and I wrote to that guy, and Darren said he will send me a unit.
Okay, send me a unit.
I canceled. Huh?
Have him send me a unit too.
Well, he only talked about one unit. So I canceled my pre-order on Amazon actually.
Yeah. Okay.
So I hope he's really sending it.
Yeah.
But I guess it won't be the problem like the like the NES Mini. I guess he will make sure that you can get it for a while.
I feel like they're having less. They're not having the supply problems, and I don't know if that's because. I feel like Nintendo purposely had supply difficulties. Like they planned that from the beginning. Like it was a limited number, and so when it got sold out, that was part of the draw because everyone was scrambling to get them.
Yeah, I guess so too.
Whereas, and I also feel like the 64 being emulator based, as we've learned, not FPGA based, but actually based on emulators, might actually be easier to manufacture. So it would be easier to keep it in supply.
Well, actually, I don't know how much of that is true.
Okay.
I don't know. I have no idea. Yup.
Yeah.
Okay, other news.
Anyway, carrying on from that.
Yes, Thimbleweed Park. Ron Gilbert actually announced there is a physical release now.
Yes.
For the Wii.
Yes. Wii.
Which is quite nice because I remember we were discussing it with him. You know, how easy or not so easy it was to convert it to the Wii.
Right.
But then we figured it's more David Fox who takes care about that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's nice. That's nice. So another classic release for the Nintendo Wii.
Yeah. Hey, a video game con. Tickets have been live now for since January actually, but I don't think we've mentioned it.
We didn't.
No, you can buy tickets. avideogamecon.com. It's at a different place this year. It's at the Meadowlands Exposition Center in Secaucus, so that's a little bit more out of the way than it was before for me. But I will still try to get there. Will
you be there? Yeah. So you will still try to be there.
I'll try to be there. It's not as convenient as it was because it was literally down the street from my grandma's house. So it was like, we'll go there and then we'll come back and get some food and then we'll go back to the convention and whatnot. This is more like 45 minutes to an hour away. So,
which is not too bad still, considering the distances you normally drive.
Yeah. The thing. What I wonder though is that it's a Meadowlands Expo Center, which is a large venue, but they didn't really fill the venue they had last year. You know?
Maybe they have special plans for this year.
I don't know. I just feel like I don't know how it's going to work. It's not. Yeah. But maybe they'll be able to turn the lights off for the burlesque. That was weird. Hey, well, what do you think about the whole Facebook leak thing? The metadata.
I don't think it's a big thing. Seriously,
You don't?
no. I mean, seriously. I mean, Facebook always had an issue, and Google isn't any better. I don't know.
I think it was only a matter of time when this happened with Facebook, because they've been pretty loose, and they haven't really been. I guess because this is all still emerging technology and whatnot, they haven't really been very stringent about a lot of stuff with security and with making sure that data isn't mined for nefarious purposes. And this is probably a wake-up call to them.
Will it mean the downfall of Facebook? I don't think so.
I don't think it's the downfall. No, I think it's just I don't think it's going to change anything. It just might at most it might make them reconsider how they handle data or what you have to do in order to access that data from them. Because pretty much you could write an app and get whatever you want and they'll approve you. But now they might have more stringent standards in effect.
We'll see how that happens.
Yeah.
As I said,
I swear this stuff. I mean, this stuff is totally. This stuff is totally listening to us and paying attention to everything that we do. I was at work a couple of weeks ago, and I don't eat pork. Okay, it's not a religious thing or anything like that. I just don't like pork. And so there's no reason I would search for anything. It would not be in my search topics. It had nothing to do with anything. We were trying to cook. There was a pork loin or something in the fridge, and one of my coworkers was trying to cook it. And we had a 30-second conversation of, what do I do with this? And I'm like, I don't know, read the directions on the package. And she goes, well, is it 350 or 400? And I'm like, I don't know, started at 350, and if we need to go up, whatever. 30-second conversation about this nonsense. That night, I go onto YouTube. Every single advertisement is how to cook a pork loin.
Okay. Huh.
So, and this has happened plenty of times. I mean, we've done experiments with the doorknobs. Remember that? We were talking about this the one time, and we're like, what is the stupidest thing that we could think of? And so we're just sitting. I think we were sitting in bed, and we're like. Or no, I think we were on the phone, and I was like, I could really use a new doorknob. And she's like, yeah, I'm interested in the kinds of doorknobs that there are, and all this stuff. I go on Amazon later that day, doorknob, different locks, doorknobs. Like Jesus Christ. Like, they're totally listening to us.
But I guess it's capping automatic. There's no real person there.
Yeah, it's not like they're not listening to us. They're not like recording our conversations and going through it and stuff. There's software that listens for certain keywords or repeated phrases and matches it up with stuff so that they can serve you advertisements. That's all it is. They're not trying to hear, they're not listening on your conversations. They're just picking up data that they can. No. But yeah, so they're. It's weird, and I mean, you've got you've got Siri set to be Hey Siri, so as we've heard over and over again in the podcast, because she starts to answer you when you haven't said anything.
Right, but she didn't answer today.
No, but it's listening at all times. Everything that you say, it's picking up and it's sending through a software filter to find those words.
Right.
And so if you happen to have your phone there and you you're talking to someone at length about something, it might be able to pick up. I don't know if Apple does that. I feel like Apple wouldn't, but but apparently, I guess I guess Google does, because I've got the Google whatever it is, basically the same thing as Siri on mine, and it's picking up my pork loin requests.
Okay. Never experienced that myself.
Yeah, it's eerie. So anyway, having now wandered.
Now I'm thinking about doorknobs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, now you're gonna go on to Amazon later, and it's all gonna be doorknobs and pork loin.
Doorknobs.
Doorknobs and pork loin. That's the worst children's movie ever made.
Never heard of that.
It's because we haven't made it yet. All right, so.
Yeah. Oh, another news maybe.
Yes.
Thomas Koch, Thomas. The guy that is also selling the Z64 cases, the new ones.
Yeah.
He actually is now selling labels.
Cool.
For the bottom of the cases.
Oh,
in his store.
The like the thing on the bottom that has like the serial number and the made in USA.
Except the one you can get in the store is not with a serial number.
Okay, is it? No, not in his store, is it?
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure you can just.
So
you
can make up your own,
right.
Using a felt tip pointer. I'm like, hey, it's rare.
Exactly.
Serial number 0, the first one ever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Look, they even made it by hand.
Keep your eye on eBay. That'll show up eventually.
Did you see that? Did you see that rare C64 one that was selling for $8,000?
Which one?
That one that had like rare factory error.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I know. I told you about that one where the machine didn't match the box serial number. It's like rare factory error. No, it's not. You just put one machine in another machine's box. There's no error there.
Yeah, and a friend of mine who actually came over here today, he said, like, did you hear about that? So it's really going viral in the C64 retro scene.
Yeah, because some of these auctions are ridiculous. It's like rare. It's not rare. Find 1,000 of them.
Factory error, and it was totally dirty. Like, and the case was half ripped off.
Yeah, it was all.
I'm pretty sure that
yellow.
Was totally a legit factory error.
Oh yeah.
Even if
it was a factory error, that doesn't make it any more valuable than any regular old C64.
You can make up stories like in 1984 when they had to return a truck of C64 from the stores back to Commodore. He was actually driving over one, and that's the one he drove over.
Yeah, right.
You can still see the tire prints on it,
Yeah, right. Yeah, this C64 here was used in the 80s in Beirut to help find and defuse bombs, and now it's come to America, and I'm selling it. You can't back this up, but you can't disprove it either.
Jesus.
I just throw some sand in it. There you go. Yeah, this is from Beirut.
Right. Oh my god.
I've seen a couple of those where it's like, rare guy bought it in the Air Force or something. And, he was stationed, I don't know where he was stationed, but he bought this thing and it's traveled, from the US to Germany and then back to the US. And he's like, rare, bought it, in military, whatever. It's not a military computer. You bought it at a store on a military base. That's the only thing about it that's military.
Well, there was an exception, actually. There was an Amiga used in the NASA.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it still had NASA internal programs on it.
Yes, There's quite a few of them, actually. if you look around, because NASA used them for telemetry, and they used them until probably like 2001 or 2 or something, and then they got rid of them because no support and all. But yeah, there's a few of those still floating around, and the one that was being sold for a ludicrous amount of money on eBay, I think they had tracked that down to who it belonged to, and it still had like all the software still on it, like nothing had been wiped or anything. So that would have actually, I would say that would be valuable just for that, the programming, the software and whatnot. But a lot of it is, it's a wiped machine from NASA. Okay. Without that internal stuff, it's not worth anything because it's just another Amiga 3000.
Or there was this Martin Galway audio CD like 12 years ago that was actually recorded on his C64 SID.
Okay.
And they pulled the C64 SID out of his original C64 to make the recording sound exactly like he composed them. That's like something,
Okay. Yeah.
No, but nowadays you can go like, oh Chris, could you sign this for me? And then you can put it on eBay like,
right,
rare.
Yeah.
Chris Hülsbeck signed my C64.
Yeah, right.
He touched it.
There's an Amiga somewhere, an Amiga 1000, where it's it's got all these signatures on the inside like the old Macs did. Except that this one's being sold for a ludicrous amount of money because somebody else signed the inside of it. No idea who it is. Could have just been the guy that owned it. But it's like unique signature, like, okay, well, without any provenance, without knowing who the signature is, it's not like that signature is just missing from that one case and it's on all the rest of them. No, someone just used a marker and signed the inside of the case along with the other ones. And if that was my machine, if I had owned that when I was a kid, maybe I would have done that because that's the sort of stupid thing I would do. But it doesn't make it like a rare signature.
Actually, I had a positive experience when I was buying something from Hood, which is a competitor here in Germany for eBay.
Yeah.
So number second,
Right.
And actually, I bought Pirates, a German version, signed by Sid Meier, who is actually the developer of the game,
Right.
And interestingly, I bought it for maybe like 25 euros. And interestingly, the seller didn't mention it, that it was signed.
Nice.
So I was like, oh my God, I got a signed copy.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes, a lot of times they don't know what they've got. Like if I'm selling a piece of software and I've got the box and the manual and everything, I usually put it up for probably like $30 or $40 because it's a complete, it's the manual, it's the box, it's all the the warranty hand-ins and all that junk. But some people just they put that up for $15, $10-15.
Right.
Some people there's been a couple of people on eBay that I've seen put up for like $30. They're selling like a Silver Label 64, and I've got to like email them and be like, don't do that. It's worth more than that.
Put a 0.
Yeah. It's a serial. It's a Silver Label. Put the serial number on it. Ask for at least twice that.
Right.
Not that it's actually worth more, but people will pay more for it because it's a Silver Label 64. It's really no different than a regular 64. It's just got a silver label.
Well, no, it is different. Bill Hurd actually mentioned it in a presentation like last year at the Commodore convention. I think it was the Vintage Computer Festival.
Yeah.
And actually, it's true because when I got my silver label, I could confirm it. The thing is, the first revision of the VIX chip I see in the
sparkles.
64
the sparkles
had the sparkle error, the sparkle bug.
Right.
So actually, even the newer C64s had the sparkle bug too.
Yeah.
But he said what they actually did is, instead of fixing it, they changed the routine in that the IC, that every time the sparkle appears, it's filled up with dark blue color,
right,
or the background color.
So you just can't see it.
So you just can't see it, yeah. But the Silver 64 had no such a fix, and it's so awful. It's so awful. And even if you got a later revision, like the Rainbow C64, you know, even that, like 83, 84, early 84, the VIC IC is really very bad, blurry and all that stuff.
My brother had one of the early revisions.
Really...
Yeah, my brother had one of the early revisions, and it was so painful to look at. The two blues did not, the light and dark blue did not, they were not far enough apart from each other to where it was comfortable to look at. You know, it was just kind of, everything was dark and just, ugh, I didn't like it.
Yeah, we never had this color issue, but it was just blurry here.
Yeah.
Well,
he had that too. It was blurry as well, but it was just dark and blurry and ugh.
Yeah. So people forget. People don't know nowadays. Nowadays, you know, you can look at it. You know what you are getting. Yeah. But back in the days, if you got a C64 with an early VIC IC that had a bad color, it had a bad color. Right. You didn't know it had a bad picture.
Right.
Despite later years, when you had a friend and like, oh my God, your C64 picture is so much better.
Yeah.
And then they buy a new one and like, wow, now.
Yeah.
You know, and back. I mean, imagine just how it must have felt 86 when they fixed the SIDs.
Yeah.
And then suddenly all the game music didn't sound right anymore, and the digis didn't really play, the digital samples.
Yep.
Wow, that must have been a shock, you know?
Yeah.
And nowadays you have this habit of, no, I want this revision because this revision is rare, and I want this revision of the VIC chip, and I want this revision of the SID. Oh, the SID. Is it R4? Is it advanced resonance?
Yeah.
Is it R3? What's the production month and week and whatever? Oh,
yeah.
You know, all these differences. Yeah. What's the assay number of the motherboard? You know,
right?
Is it an Aldi case? Is it a normal case? You know, like, oh my God! Back in the days, you had no choice. Yeah. You go to the store and get whatever was available. You had no idea what you were getting.
Mm-hmm.
People tend to forget that, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think we've rambled enough. Robert Bernardo is probably growing a beard, waiting for us to get over there.
Maybe his shaver's broken.
Maybe. Oh, so Robert Bernardo is over there. Let's go talk to him. And
today we are actually talking to you because you are head of the Fresno User Group, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I am the president of the Fresno Commodore User Group. I'm also the leader of the Southern California Commodore and Amiga Network, since that group down there in Southern California does not really have officers, so I can't really call myself a president or a chairman or anything like that. So I'm the leader of that group there.
Yes, actually, we mentioned this before on the podcast. User groups is a concept that is pretty much unknown to us Europeans.
I think the closest you would have would be the Netherlands Commodore show.
The X Party.
Where the group there meets every 2 months at a church there, and they gather together and show off their computers. So I think that would be the closest you have to a user group.
Actually, yes. That's also true. That's like a club, we would say, in the Netherlands, exactly.
And then I've been to, I'm going to pronounce this very badly in German. I've been to and I've just forgotten the name. The name translates to Tuesday Club Tuesday club.
Oh yeah, that would be the Tuesday meeting. Yeah, that's also like a meeting of hardware guys.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That would be every Tuesday, and that was I visit when I'm in Europe. I try to visit that club, and they are up there in, and I'm forgetting my names again. I'm forgetting my names. Well, why don't I pull up a map of Germany and take a look so I can remember where I am?
Actually, I don't even remember where they are meeting. It's not at least close to me, so.
That's right. It is not close to you. It is more in northern Germany.
Yes.
So you would. Oh, that's right. You'd fly into the Dusseldorf airport.
Yeah, exactly.
And you'd fly into the Dusseldorf airport, and then you would go to. And I forget the name of the town. It doesn't come to mind right now. Okay.
I don't remember right now either.
Oh, that's it. It's so I'm pronouncing this badly. It's the Dienstagstreff.
Yeah, Tuesday meeting, Dienstagstreff. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. I know what meeting you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. They have a website.
Exactly. Yes. So, actually, interestingly, we know each other since. I mean, we have spoken before, like 17 years ago when we were starting with Scene World, and I remember we were actually having an email conversation, and you were telling me like, why are you still up at 3:30 and working on the magazine or organizing? You should get some rest.
Oh yes. We have a different editor now for the newsletter. I do not do the newsletter anymore.
Okay.
It was just too much work, and I was working as a teacher, and I could not do that anymore. I said, and we had a volunteer in our club. He took over as our newsletter editor.
Interesting.
Unfortunately, this is a hard copy newsletter. So unfortunately, he does everything on Windows. So it does not have the Commodore look to it. I went, oh, okay.
But I remember back in the days there were some newsletters using Geo Publish.
Yes. I was doing my newsletter first on one program. Oh boy. And I'm forgetting the names of my programs again. I was first doing it on one program, a newsletter writing program, and then I switched over to Geos.
Yeah, I know that.
GeoWrite and GeoPublish. And then I would send them through a PostScript printer, and when you send it through a PostScript printer, then you have perfect letters. It looks perfect. It does not have the dot matrix look to it.
Unfortunately, all those people I had back in touch with, besides you, they all stopped. I mean, K. Dale Sidebottom, for example, he stopped. And
yes,
then
he passed away. I found out a few months ago
Seriously?
that he died. Yes.
Oh.
I did not know that K. Dale Sidebottom. He died, and I was just informed of that. So I should write a tribute to him. I found some of his newsletters that I had been receiving. Yeah. And he was quite a force in Commodore, and he died. I went, oh.
I was actually talking to him last year on Facebook, because you know how Facebook is. Facebook is, maybe you know K. Dale. I'm like, yes, I know him. And then he told me last year that he stopped everything related to Commodore, which was quite sad.
Oh, it must have been because of his health.
I don't know. It was just a brief 10 minutes conversation. So I don't know. And I guess the other one was Tina Turner or something? Or somebody called Tina, but not Turner. But somebody called Tina. And she was also making a newsletter. But I don't exactly remember her name now.
I do not know her, but if it's Tina Turner, the movie star and singer, I don't think she's in Commodore.
No. Yeah. Well, it was somebody called Tina, and she was also a GeOS user. I actually spoke to a lot of GeOS users back in the day. Which is actually the reason why I got the idea to support the mouse for the Mac system.
Oh, very good, very good. Well, yeah, our club is like, let me think about that. I think our club is the only club still putting out a paper newsletter. Because we had that idea in the club that if we do not put out a newsletter, then our club is dead. So we have to keep on putting out a newsletter.
Oh, I see. So let's start a bit at the beginning. How did it actually happen that you got involved into computers and Commodore and then did your club? Let's start at the beginning.
Oh, you're going back a long way, back to 1981, 1982? Okay, I could start back then. As a beginning teacher back in the first few years, of course, we had nothing like, computers in the classroom. But then in 1982, the principal, or the headmaster of our school, he told the teacher, saying, "Oh, there's a computer class going on in a nearby town. Go to the computer class. We won't pay you for it, but go to the computer class anyway and find out about computers." And I remember going to this class, and there were a bunch of interested teachers there, and in front of us were Tandy 3 computers, and they're huge computers. Well, they have like a 12-inch monitor and dual disk drives, and they're all built into a case with a keyboard. So I believe those were Tandy 3 computers, and of course they used 5 1/4-inch floppy disks. And the instructor of that class told us, and this was just a few hours on one afternoon, and the instructor of the class said, "Oh, this is how you use a computer. Insert your disk, type in load."
Okay.
This is save. This is how you get a directory on a Tandy computer, a disk directory on a Tandy computer. And we were all, of course, amazed. We're going, "Oh, this is the way it's done. This is how to write a basic program." We're going, "Oh, wow, this is how it's done." And so that was the introduction to computers back then. I still did not have a computer back in '82, but we were getting used to working with them back then, and of course we were just typing one finger at a time.
Okay.
Because we didn't know what we were doing. And then in 1983, August 4th, 1983, because the price was so good, I got my first home computer, which was the Commodore 64.
Great.
Yes. And then, as a poor teacher, that's all I could afford. It was the big $200, because the price had dropped, the big $200, and I brought it home, and that's all I could afford. I could not afford any means of storage.
I see.
So I typed everything in from the instruction book, the user's manual. I said, "Oh, here's a basic program. Okay, type it in, see what it does." But of course, when I turned off the computer, everything got erased. It was only 1 month later when I had a paycheck again, and I could finally buy a cassette drive, and it was not even the Commodore cassette drive, not the data set. I had to get an off-brand, off-market data set, which was $5 cheaper. I said, "Oh, the Commodore data set is $35. This other data set or off-brand data set is only $30. Okay, I'll get the off-brand one." So I stayed with the data set for maybe about 2 years, the Commodore 64 and the data set.
Wow.
And that's actually pretty unusual, because the data set was very often that's what a lot of the Europeans started with, and a lot of Americans, we never saw them or never used them because disk drives were pushed here more than they were in Europe.
Oh yes, but I could not afford the price of a disk drive. I said, $200 for a C64 and $30 for a data set. Oh no, I can't afford another $200 for a a 1541 disk drive. So yes, I survived for 2 years on that. In fact, in 1984, 1 year later, I started bringing the Commodore 64 into the classroom, And I would set the Commodore 64 there with a TV, yes, not a monitor, but a television, and I'd have the data set there, and I'd have the students, after school, would say, okay, we're going to run this type-in program here that was saved on dataset, or we're going to use this word processor that was done on saved on dataset. And it was not until 1985 that I got my first Commodore that had a disk drive, and actually it was a Commodore SX64.
Interesting.
Yes, it was on closeout from a department store over here in California called Gemco, and Gemco was going out of business, and their entire computer section was, of course, discounted at huge markdowns, huge price drops, and they had a SX64 there. They said, oh, okay, regularly $1,000 computer down to $400. Okay, I'll get that.
Wow.
So in 1985, I got my first computer, the SX64, with the built-in disk drive. And, of course, I had to learn everything then. I said, oh, this is what you do with a disk drive on a Commodore. One of my friends who had a disk drive before me, he was also into Commodore, and he was used to a 1541 disk drive. He said, Robert, this is the way you do it. This is how you save to disk. This is what you do with a disk drive. I went, oh.
Well, we should take into account that the disk drive actually is a whole computer in itself, which is why it was so expensive. It's not like modern PC disk drives or even Amiga disk drives that are just plain disk drives,
Wow. But even before then, back in '84, it was in '84. Yes, I needed a printer for my computer, something that would work. Yes, I was still using the brown C64 with the data set back in '84, and I said, "Oh, I need to print things," and I did not like the 15. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting names again. I did not like the 7-pin Commodore printer, the 1525. I said, "Ooh, those characters look really bad. The dot matrix look on the printer looks really bad. Okay, I will buy something else that has letter quality." And what I did was buy a daisy wheel typewriter.
Okay,
daisy
interesting.
Wheel typewriters. Yes, daisy wheel typewriters, the ones I was looking at, those had, I said, oh, look, it has a parallel port in the back. It has a Centronics port in the back of this daisy wheel typewriter. I can connect it to the Commodore. So that's what I did. With a cable, I would connect the daisy wheel typewriter to the Commodore. And then, of course, with my first word processor, which was Total Text, that's spelled TOTL text, TEXT, Total Text 2.6 on cassette. So I would load up my cassette word processor and type away on the Commodore, and then yes, Total Text was not very. It was a, what is it called? A post-formatting word processor, I believe. You had to embed all your character strings inside the text. So it is not what you see is what you get. You had to put in strange commands like $, PR, which meant paragraph. Indent, $, IN, which means indent the paragraph. So yes, it was, but I got used to it. And in fact, with Total Text, you could adjust it so it could go 80 columns. If your television could resolve 80 columns, you could barely see 80 columns on the television with your Commodore 64. You're going, oh, those characters are very tiny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, with the resolution of just 320 by 200, you don't have a lot of chance to see anything.
Each character then is like only 3 characters because you still need one for a space. So it's especially on a TV that's real blurry and painful.
Oh, yes, it was really blurry. I said, "Oh, this television is not good enough. I have to get a bigger television with a bigger picture tube."
Yeah.
That was my cure for it. I said, "No, this little television is not good enough. I need a bigger television. Then I could see the letters a little bit better."
It's interesting because here in Europe, actually, the most printer used were either an Epson NL20 that could be used for a PC or Amiga or a Commodore 64, or what my grandfather used was a Commodore MPS 302, which couldn't do graphics, only text.
See, I had an MPS 801, and
that was the graphic.
Like Robert said, though, the dot matrix was awful. There were no, you didn't have the descending G's or any of that stuff, and it just looked like it looked like almost like a ransom note with different letters from different things kind of stapled together. And I actually, when I was in school, I used it to do a paper, and I actually got points off because of the stupid letters. And I had to bring in the printer to show them, no, this is how it works. This is what it's supposed to look like.
Actually, it's mainly a driver issue, because in later GEOS versions with GeoWrite, you had a better printer driver that would fix this
problem. But you would also, the MPS 801, it never was quite, there was always a little bit of a gap in between where the print head wrote. So it was never, if you did it in pure graphics, then you could kind of have the descenders. It would look a little funky. But if you just, were outputting text, which is what most word processors at the time did, it just, just one pass and ugliness. I also had the Daisy Wheel too, the first one that I had, which was the loudest printer on the face of the earth.
Okay, interesting.
I had the Royal typewriter, Royal typewriter, from a company called Royal Typewriter Company. And you use, of course, to change the font on the typewriter, you change the Daisy Wheel.
Right.
So you go, I need this kind of font. Okay, change the Daisy Wheel. I said, look, this is ingenious how they change fonts on this thing. And but to get graphics, my friend who was more advanced than me, because he had the 1541, he had the cool printer, dot matrix printer, and he had everything. He says, "Robert, how do you do graphics?" I said, well, in Compute Gazette, there is a program there that would use the period key on your Daisy Wheel typewriter. And you just, you would type in this program and then load in your graphic, and then the period key would just keep hitting on the paper until it printed a graphic.
Took about 4 hours to do one page, but yeah.
That is one way to make a graphic with a Daisy Wheel printer.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually wrote a piece of software that did that, and I must have gone through. I must have gone through like 3 different Daisy Wheels because I kept killing the period.
I was thinking Maker Faire is coming up over here in California. It's coming up in May, and one of the things I was thinking about for Maker Faire is, maybe I should bring in the Commodore. And of course, over there at Maker Faire, we have a classic computers exhibit there. And we have users bring in their computers, their old-time computers, to show everybody what it was like back then. So usually I bring in a Commodore and an Amiga, and for some strange reason a Texas Instruments TI-99 also. Hey, somebody handed it to me, but there's huge interest in the TI-99. I don't know why, but okay. So I usually set out those computers, and of course all the other users for the classic exhibits table, they bring in an Apple II or an Atari 800 computer or Atari 2600 game console. And then of course the hundreds of people, well, Maker Faire in California is, we have 100,000 people come up to that show.
Wow.
And then on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we have hundreds of people coming through our classic exhibits area, our classic computers exhibit area. It's just hundreds of people coming through. And we just take up an area of about maybe 20 by, this is not in meters, it's in feet. But we take up an area of about 20 feet by 20 feet with our tables in a circle like that, with room for people to get through. but that place is always crowded with people coming in. All these families coming in, husbands, wives, children, and the fathers and mothers tell their little children, "Oh, this is what a computer was like back then. This is a floppy disk," and all the kids go, "Oh, floppy disk," or the parents show them, "This is a data set. This is a cassette for storing data on," and they look at it and go, "Oh, a cassette."
Yeah, it's true.
I think they're a little more familiar with a cartridge. They they figure out what a cartridge is. They go, "Oh, this is a VIC-20 cartridge, or this is a C64 cartridge. You plug it in and it does something up on the screen." So they're a little bit more familiar with what cartridges do. But they're not even quite sure. Well, the kids, they're not even quite sure what a classic joystick is. You know, this is how you control things. This is a joystick, and of course they're looking around for like the PlayStation 3 controller.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. No. This is a joystick, guys. This is here. You move it left, right, up, or down, and this is your fire button right here. So for Maker Faire this year, I was thinking, how can I give families the classic experience? I said, maybe I should bring out my old daisy wheel typewriter and connect it to the Commodore and run a word processing program, and the kids, for a while until they got bored with it, I'll say, here, type something on the computer, press Control P, and then watch it print out on the typewriter over there.
Yeah.
And of course, some of them don't know what a daisy wheel electronic typewriter is. They'll just be pushing the keys on the typewriter.
Right. Well, you can also, if you wrote the program for it, you could have it print to. You could have it just print straight to device 4. So as you typed on the computer, it would just print out instantly.
Yes. So that was another idea. Of course, I have these other ideas for Maker Faire, like, connect a video camera to the Commodore and run a video capture program with the Commodore. Okay, kids, hold very, very still for 4 seconds or 10 seconds while the Commodore scans your face.
Yeah.
Hold extremely, don't move, or else, but of course, they'll move and we'll have strange pictures on the Commodore screen. I'll say, that's you on the Commodore screen right there. And of course, if I connect a graphics printer to it, then I could print it out on fan fold paper for them. And of course, the kids will go, fan fold paper? What's that? I say, yes, you put this paper through the printer, and the pins pull up the paper. And
it's going endless paper. Yeah.
Yes, endless paper. In fact, another idea would have been that I'm thinking of is like, they don't know the printing experience with the Commodore. Well, yeah, maybe a graphics printer. To get out the old C Ito printer. That's C.ITOH printer. The old 8510 printer, which is quite a nice 9-pin printer, really. And ribbons are somewhat available for them. And, show them, say, run Print Master through it or Print Shop and say, okay, kids, you can make your signs like this or make your pet banners. Here, we're going to type out something, pick your graphic, This is how to make a banner with a Commodore. And of course, it would take them a while. Make your banners very short. Don't make it very long because hundreds of other people are waiting in line to use the computer. And that's what we typically have at the Classic Computers exhibit area. We have people waiting in line. They're in a queue waiting to use our old time computers.
Nice.
And the parents would say, I used to have a computer like this.
Yes.
Well,
exactly.
You can get it back again. Or they would say, I used to program on this. I said, well, you can still program on it and, get back into it. That's always my response. They said,
that's actually the thing,
Yeah, we have one of these in the closet. I said, well, take it out of the closet and use it again.
That's exactly the that type of conversations I have every time when we have our booth of Scene World at Gamescom, which is the biggest games trading show fair in Europe. And we have a big retro area there with Atari, Amiga, Sinclair, whatever, and we go with the Scene World magazine there having a booth, and so I plug in the joystick, put it up there, and they are like, what? This is a magazine to read, not a game to play, you know?
What time of the year is that show?
It's in the last week of August.
Okay.
Yeah,
last
it's
week
the
of
biggest
August.
show. It's like half a million visitors each year.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And,
So you
and
can
in
imagine how wasted I am after this week.
Oh yeah. In what city is that?
Cologne.
Oh, Cologne. Okay, very good. Well, when I go back to Europe in 2019 or 2020, I should try and go to that show and see what it's like.
You should, but be prepared. It will be very stressful because 500,000 gamers will be there. You know, it's a gaming fair.
At Maker Faire here in California, it's like we go at our classic games exhibit. We go anywhere from 10 to 12 hours. And I'm just standing there 10 to 12 hours helping everybody because there's no room to sit down. Everybody else has taken the chairs and they're playing on the classic computers. So wow. I have to tell people, yeah, this is how you run the disk. Oh, you've frozen the computer. Okay, just turn it off, turn it on. And they go, what? Turn it off, turn it on? I said, yeah, just do that.
Yeah.
That's how you get the Commodore working again. They go, okay.
Yeah, that's actually true. What disturbs me the most, however, is the parents when they see the 1084 and they see the monitor and the covers broke off. So they are like, okay, let's correct the color. Let's turn up the volume. I'm like, well, you're not supposed to touch it, It's not your device. So it's not actually the kids playing with the monitor settings. It's the parents, So I actually got replacement covers for the control panel due to 3D printing so that people wouldn't mess with the monitors anymore.
Oh, well, I don't have... Well, no, the parents at Maker Faire, they don't seem to be playing around with the controls on the monitors that much. They're just so enjoying the experience with their children.
Okay. Yeah.
It's bringing them back to their past.
Well, that's good. That's good. Well, not everybody's doing it, but of course. But each time I'm returning, and I'm like, well, this picture looks different now than what it used to look like before. Yeah, it's actually wonderful. It's great. I'm really happy myself that I'm old enough to know how all this computer stuff started, because the knowledge is getting lost. In a way.
Oh yes. That's true, because if you don't keep people informed about it, they just forget. They go, oh, we don't know how it was done. Yes, the knowledge is becoming lost, and it's good to pass it down to younger generations and go, this is 8-bit computing, or this is Amiga 32-bit computing, or this is the way it was done. And do something with it. My thing is, if people can make new things with the old technology, hey, that's great.
Definitely.
Like, I recently bought. yes, I will. I fell for it. One of my friends, when I was in Europe last September and October, I was up in Sweden, and one of my friends, he says, Robert, you signed up for VR64, didn't you? I said, huh? What's that? Virtual reality 64. You put these glasses on your head, you'll see a 3D image. I said, oh, you do? Oh, that's amazing. That's brand new for our Commodore. So I had to sign up for it, and I paid the big $80 US for it, and I received it a few weeks ago, and I demonstrated it in front of the Fresno Commodore User Group, and while they liked the concept of virtual reality 64, the implementation was still needs improvement. The game that came with it, Street Defender, well, in Street Defender, you choose your weapons by having to push the F keys on the Commodore, and you have you have to turn left or right by pushing the left arrow key or the number 1 key on the Commodore. I went, huh? Well, you mean, okay, so you have these goggles over your eyes, but you have to be, you have to kind of feel where your the keys on the keyboard are. I mean, well, that's kind of clumsy to use in this game. So there is no, what is it, motion sensing in the goggles. So if you turn your head left, the screen does not go left. Or if you turn your head right, the screen does not go right. You have to push buttons on the keyboard of the Commodore to turn left or right. I said, well, that's not quite right. This needs a little more development. Like, I thought to myself, oh, what if we put some kind of motion sensing module, inertial positioning module on the goggles, and then it would register left or right, and then somehow connect that into the Commodore 64 through the user port or through the joystick port. And then when you turn your head left, it would, the screen would turn left, or if you turn your head right, the screen would turn right. I was thinking too expensively, my friend said. They said, no, you don't need a fancy inertial positioning module. Just buy a tilt switch. I said, a tilt switch? Yeah. If you tilt one way, if you position the little tilt switch on your goggles one way, it would sense you tilting one way, and then it'll move the screen left. Or if you tilt the other way, it'll move the screen the other way.
Makes sense.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking of the complicated method, and my friends, the more electronic-minded friends of mine, they said, "Oh yeah, tilt switch is just like a little bit of mercury, the metal mercury inside a little tube, and it just slides left and right and makes contact with the switch inside of it." I went, "Oh, is that it? Very simple." So I'm going to suggest to the developer of VR64 and say, can you put some switches on your goggles there so you can turn left or right with the goggles instead of having to feel on the keyboard to turn left or right, and push and looking trying to feel for the F keys to fire your weapons. That is very clumsy also. So I'm going to suggest to him to, give joystick control. We need joystick control, Pick your weapons by going up or down on the joystick, and then press the fire button on the joystick to fire.
Mm-hmm. So that's also a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be another way. Or if he does not like the idea of the tilt switch, which adds, to the complexity of the program, well, then give the joystick control. I mean, if you want to see the view turn left, move left with the joystick. Or if you want to move right with the view, then move right with the joystick. So yeah, just make the game a little better a better playing experience for the person. Because I want to show this game off at Maker Faire, but I would know the kids' reaction to that game.
Yeah,
Here, kids,
I see.
Put on these goggles, and of course they'll see the 3D view. They'll be impressed with that. But then trying to reach for the keys on the Commodore when you can't see where the keys are, that would turn off the kids.
Of course, yeah. Well, I mean, anyway, it's still surprising for people when I tell them like, well, there are new games being released,
yes.
And there are new hardware things being released, and some people even didn't know that the Commodore 64 is actually re-released, since 3 years you can get a Commodore 64 Reloaded, which is a brand new board,
right?
And people from the streets, they don't know that, because like back in the day when it was not modern anymore, you thought it's trash, unfortunately. So people actually never had the idea that there would be enough community to make new development. But actually, that is what you mentioned a lot of times. This has been changed in the last 7 years, 8 years, where you have something like a retro trend.
Yes. The retro
yeah.
The retro trend is in certain areas, though, because I've been to the Computer History Museum for these movies that come out about Commodore and Atari and all these other new, these filmmakers who want to do the history of Commodore, the history of Atari, and I go to the ones for Commodore, and there are lots of people, that come to the Computer History Museum, and they want to see the history of Commodore business machines. But I've been to the one with the Atari movie that came out, and I said, oh, just a few dozen people for Atari? Okay. What happened here? Maybe not good advertising. Maybe the Atari community is not as strong here in the West Coast of the United States. I mean, the Computer History Museum is in the middle of the Silicon Valley, where computers were developed. I'm going, oh, okay, still not very many Atari fans here at this movie showing. Oh well, okay.
Yes, you're right. But on the other hand, I wonder what's actually your opinion about the reincarnation of the Commodore 64. I mean, it started all with that awful Vapid computer that was just a PC with an emulator, and then actually there was this DTV that actually in 2004 that actually was a smash hit, and then. In April this year, so in a month, they will actually bring out the C64 Mini. So, what's your opinion about that?
Is that confirmed? Because I've been speaking to Mike Battilana of Cloanto, who owns various copyrights or knows the people who owns various copyrights, and at the time I spoke to Mike a few months ago. These people who are coming out with the C64 Mini, they had not properly gone through the copyright channels. So has that been cleared up?
Well, according to my information, yes. I mean, we even did an interview with that guy who brought up this project. Darren Melbourne, exactly.
Oh, Darren Melbourne. Oh, okay, yeah.
That was.
I believe I met.
That didn't sound too enthusiastic.
Darren Melbourne back in 2003. Enthusiastic? No, I'm not too enthusiastic. I'm going. Well, okay, because if that's the same person I met back in 2003, I mean, he came to the United States and met with Jerry Ellsworth, and
that's the guy, yes.
And I met him, and he was all enthusiastic about it, and Jerry was all enthusiastic about it also. And then, of course, then the C64 DTV disaster happened. I went, oh, and then so my opinion of people who screwed Jerry Ellsworth over on that deal, I do not like. So I'm going, no, I'd rather not associate myself with.
But didn't Darren Melbourne also get screwed on that deal, Joerg?
Oh, he did.
I thought he did. I thought that he mentioned that when we spoke to him.
Yes, he did actually. Yeah.
Because well, should I mention this? Okay. Jerry, I'm not going to give you the exact number. Okay, so Jerry was supposed to receive a royalty fee for every DTV that was sold. She was supposed to get a little, percent of every DTV that was sold, and that came out to quite a bit of money, because if 600,000 DTVs were C64 DTVs were sold, and 100,000 Hummer DTVs were sold through Radio Shack. That's 700,000. I went, 700,000 units, yes, and you're gonna make this much money, and she never got any of that money. I went, what? But what happened? And of course, she went through lawyers and spent money on lawyers, but they came back to her and said, we cannot get that money back because there was a clause in the contract. The clause in the contract was, if this product does not make a profit or is not successful, then you do not get any of the royalties. And of course, the company, and I'm not talking about Mammoth Toys. Mammoth Toys was fine with her. It was the other part of the company. Okay. The name
DC
of the company out of
Studios, which
Canada.
would it be?
Out of Canada? DC, is that it? DC Studios out of Canada?
Yeah, and the
Well-
and the European side would be Toy Lobster Company.
No, I don't think Toy Lobster was fine with her. I think, but it was the DC Studios part that was giving her, supposedly providing her the money, and they said, "Oh, the DTV is not successful. Look, on our books, it has made a loss. We have made a loss."
Hard
So,
to believe.
in our according to our spreadsheets here, so we do not owe you any money, and oh yeah, that was bad, really, really bad. And so she did not get her royalty fees, and when she tried to sue them, then conveniently DC Studios went out of business. And of course, Jerry's lawyers said, "Well, we can't sue anyone if the company is out of business."
Wow.
So she did not. Yeah, she did not get any money there. Oh, in fact, I think before they went out of business, they said, "Jerry, your DTV was not a success, but if you make a more improved DTV for us with even more games, maybe we can, it can be successful, and then you could get royalties." But of course, she did not believe him, saying, "I'm not going to work for you guys for free, and I'm not going to, pay. I'm not going to do all this work and not get a promise of getting any money." So she did not make an improved DTV for them, which would have had more games. Their idea was, instead of 30 games in the DTV, not including the hidden games, but the 30 games in the DTV, they wanted like 100 games in the DTV.
Oh. But Jerry wasn't the only one in the team. I mean, there was Jason Campton, there was Adrian Gonzalez, Robin Harpern, who also did
I know all of them.
Maxes for us, and Oliver Weierbrooks, who is our current coder. So there were a lot of people involved.
Jörg, do you remember the specifics?
Yes, there were a lot of people involved.
Do you remember the specifics of what happened with Darren? How he got screwed over? I think it was a very similar story to what you just told with Jerry, where they just they sold off everything that was there and shut down, and he didn't get anything from it. I'd have to go back and listen to that podcast to find out what it is.
That was 2 years ago.
I know. It's been a bit. I forget.
According to what Jerry told me, the bad guys who were up in Canada, they went out of business, but then they reincorporated, or they moved down to Florida. I went, they're over there in Florida now. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, this isn't the first C64 FRPG reincarnation
FPGA.
FPGA that had a bitter story. I mean, there was also this Commodore 1 that was actually coming out in 2001, 2002, and I remember that Jerry told that she got screwed over by Jens Schoenfeld, but Jens Schoenfeld said he got screwed over because she never finished the project. So.
Okay.
Drama. So much
I know that story too.
You know that story too. Okay.
Yes, that's another big story there. Well. So let's just say, okay, maybe I can make it brief. Okay, I'll make it brief.
Okay.
And
sure.
Okay, so Jerry built a board, a prototype, and it had two FPGAs on it. And this is like the first instance of using FPGAs to recreate an old-time computer.
Yeah.
So she put two FPGAs on it, and these FPGAs were big enough to hold everything of the Commodore 64 within them. So that would be all the hard code, all the SID chips, everything everything fit on these FPGAs. Okay?
Okay,
And
I'm still following.
So yeah, big enough, and it would hold, the operating, the basic. It would hold everything that would make a Commodore 64. So it sounds great, right? Jens, okay, here I'm gonna get in trouble here. Jens went through it with his fine-tooth comb and cost reduced it. So he put in a smaller FPGA instead of two large FPGAs. He put in one large FPGA and one small FPGA, and because he wanted to save a few euros? A few euros off of each board. And that handicapped the Commodore 1 greatly, because no matter what Jerry could do, she couldn't squeeze the code into the one large and one small FPGA. There was just not enough space. So she worked on it for months. She couldn't squeeze the code down into the board. In other words, the Commodore 1 was handicapped.
I see.
And
okay.
It was from the boards that they were selling, badly handicapped. So she gave up on the project, basically. And it was not until Jens came out a few years later, and I guess he has never admitted this. Boy, he's going to be mad at me. He came out with an extender board. He calls it an extender board, which put back in the space. You add this board for 99 euros. 99 euros. I believe that was the price he was quoting.
Yes, I bought it too. I know.
And this will give you back the FPGA space that was missing when he cost reduced it. And then, so the Commodore 1 was made whole again, was made complete again after the fact. And I went, well, that's not the way it should have been done in the first place.
Wow.
So yeah, that was the big disaster there, and yeah, okay. To this day, I do not buy anything from individual computers, Jens's company. So.
Wow, that must be hard, because he has some stuff that nobody else has, unfortunately.
Oh, right, of course, I know he has a lot of Amiga stuff, and my friend said, Robert, don't you want to buy anything from him? I said, no, I don't have to buy anything from him. I'll just buy elsewhere, or I won't buy at all. So that's my attitude.
Well, so I shouldn't tell you that I bought his clock generator replacement, so I could turn my PAL C64 into an NTSC 64. When Gideon Schweitzer from the Netherlands announced his Ultimate 64, I said, "Oh, this is great, because I'll buy the Ultimate 64." I pre-ordered one too. Yeah.
Oh well, I was put on the mailing list, but I'm not sure if that mailing list is a pre-order list or not. So I said, "Oh yeah, the first 100 slots, the first 100 people have already pre-ordered theirs, and the first 100 will get their the first run of the Ultimate 64, the 64 Ultimate. But I'd rather wait for a later version, when all the bugs are worked out of it. I don't have to be one of the first 100 people to pick up the board."
I see. Yeah, but so you will be a customer of him instead.
Yes.
But he said the NTSC implementation will come later, unfortunately.
No problem. I have monitors that can do PAL.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm using a TV for that, a CRT TV. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now I'm using LCD monitors that can do NTSC or PAL. Well, I do have one. Oh, yes,
one. I can do that too, but I like the CRT stuff more.
I do have a Sony GVM that can do PAL or NTSC, and that is a CRT monitor. So if you want that CRT experience, there you go.
Yeah. I was actually surprised how clear the picture is, despite I used the AV signal. So pretty good. And it actually caused some discussion, like why would you want an NTSC Commodore 64? And it said like to play games that play badly on a slow PAL machine.
Hey, what's up? Okay. Actually, my friends at the Netherlands Commodore show, they said, Robert, when you come back to our show, why don't you bring us an NTSC C64? I said, huh? You guys want it? Okay, I could do that. I could in my suitcase. I could pack a C64, one or two of them, and bring it to you guys. So I don't know. They want some NTSC C64s over there. I said, okay, sure.
Well, it's actually pretty easy to modify them. You just need the VIC chip. That's the NTC revision, and you just need this clock generator replacement.
Right.
And if you don't want one from Jens Schoenfeld, there's a guy in the USA that sells a similar one. The only difference is this one from the American guy can only handle PAL or NTSC, but the one from Jens Schoenfeld actually has a jumper, so you can switch between NTSC and PAL. That's the only difference.
Who is this person in the United States?
Oh, let's see. I have his product on my eBay watch list. So just let me have a look, because just in case it's sold out. So I would buy from the American guy instead. Well, it's actually he calls himself Aslapian, and he's from Canada.
Oh, Aslapian? Oh, yeah, he's up there in Quebec, Canada.
Yeah. Okay, so you know him. Okay.
That's Francois Levelier. My French is very bad. Leveille. Levelier? Yeah, Aslapian. Yeah.
And he has a replacement too, but that's not switchable, and that is why actually I went for this one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. Yeah, I've done some business with Francois. He's a good guy. Even though I don't understand why people bully him. There's a term. They're bullying him on the forums. Okay, why are they picking arguments with Francois? I mean, he's a good guy, but people like to get him into an argument, and then of course he has to defend himself. And and these arguments can go on for a very long time. I'm going, ooh, they're at it again. Okay.
I didn't know that. Well, anyway, the price tag for that was just 39 euros for the American VIC chip, and 17 euros for the clock generator replacement. But that was a pretty cheap modification to turn a PAL machine into NTSC. So I don't know why you would go all through the shipping and customs issues. If you can just do it yourself for $50, it's not really worth it.
I have a few. I have 2 or 3 PAL C64s back at my house, but unfortunately, I burned out the SID chips on them. I said, darn it all! Now I have to get, either find some old SID chips and stick them into the machines, or buy the SwimSID Ultimate and stick them into the machine.
I did that too. I actually ordered 2 of them, and they are sounding brilliant.
There's also the new FPGA SID that's coming out soon.
Yeah, that's also from Germany. Yes. So there are a couple of replacements possible. So it seems you know everything and everybody, right?
No, I don't know. I don't know everything and everybody. I just know certain people and certain bodies.
Yeah, because you even know the details, like back to the version of the word processing you used. That's like who cares about version numbers? But you know everything like it happened like yesterday. This is impressive.
No, the memory is fading as the years go on. The memory fades. So I'm sure, because I believe I was looking up some writing I did back in 2004 or 2003, and sometimes instead of writing on the computer, I just write everything down on paper, and then I type it into the computer. So back in 2003 or 2004, I pulled out these old papers. I said, "Oh, look, I wrote down all my experiences back then on paper." I went, "Oh,
Nice.
Look at that! Things that I had not remembered." I said, "Oh." So yes, of course, the things that are nearer in time to the present time, you remember better than things that happened long ago. And of course, things are moving longer and longer ago, farther and farther back in memory, in long-term memory. That's it.
Actually, I found the last message from K-Dale's side bottom, if you're interested. Yeah. So his last Facebook message to me was sent August 4th in 2014, so 4 years ago. And he told me, "Hey, Joerg, I haven't been in Commodore now for several years. I got disgusted with the failure of those who would provide the super CPU 128. So I have been writing a book about religion, philosophy, and politics. At least I cannot be accused of taking it easy. Gotta go, bye, Dale." So this means he got pissed by Maurice Rendell, who never delivered his super CPU 128.
That's amazing. Wow, he wrote that back in 2014. Oh,
yes. So, and as we go about drama, this...
Morris Randall is drama.
Another
central.
drama.
What are you saying? Wait a minute. Okay, I know that Morris never delivered on several products. And people were very, very angry. In fact, yeah, that's right. In fact, Morris never gave me some of the stuff that I paid for, but that was many years ago. So
yeah.
So so that is the reason why K-Dale side bottom left the C64 scene.
Because of Morris Randall?
Well, he said he got disgusted with the failures of those who could provide the super CPU 128. And that would be Morris Randall, because he took over the CMD stuff. Yeah.
Interesting. So just because of one person, he got out of Commodore?
That is what he wrote me. Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. I mean, wow, interesting. Very interesting. That's very passionate, or that's taking it. Either that's very passionate of him, or that's taking it too far.
Yeah.
Well, Facebook never forgets anything.
Okay.
Well, just thought you would care to know, because you said maybe it was because of health issues.
Well, yeah, I heard about that through other people associated with Dale. That
I see.
That things were happening. And I went, oh, okay. But of course, I had not known that he had died recently. I went, oh, and that was, and then I tried to look up for information on the internet about his obituary, about details, but I could not find it. I could not find details of exactly when he died or under what circumstances or anything like that. So, oh well. Okay, so another Commodorian goes to heaven. There we go.
Yeah. And I actually found out the Tina person who did the newsletter for the Commodore 64, and that was Tina Lapointe.
Lapointe. I don't know who that is. Where did that newsletter come from? From what area or what city?
I don't remember. I just have I just have her email address still in my address books.
Is it? Can you identify it as a North American email address, or is it like from the UK or from Australia?
It's at wi.rr.com.
Oh, wi.rr.com. Oh, huh. That does not sound like an American address. Okay, I don't know about email addresses that much, but that does not sound like a typical American email address.
I think I've got his obituary here.
Oh, you found K. Dale?
Yeah, it's
Dale?
Kenneth Dale Sidebottom, died March 2015.
Okay.
March 3rd, 2015, at Floyd Memorial Hospital. He was up in New York State, right?
Wait a minute. Dale was up in New York because I thought he was a resident of Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, maybe. Is there another K. Dale Sidebottom? Is that possible?
Right.
With a name like that, I don't think so.
Yeah, that sounds very. That's not a common name.
Well, I can look in his Facebook profile. Let's see.
It was New York State. He was up in New York State. Maybe he had family up that way.
Well, it doesn't say in his profile, but it says he worked for the U.S. Postal Service.
Yes, that is true.
And his birth date was May 18th, 1946.
1946. Oh, maybe maybe not. Maybe it's New Albany. So I don't know if that's maybe New Albany is in Kentucky.
Oh no, New Albany is right there across the river from Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay, well then that's it. I saw Albany and I was like New York.
No. The Albany, New York is not New Albany in Indiana.
Okay.
So you found his obituary from March 3rd, 2015, and he passed away in New Albany, Indiana.
Right.
Oh. And I thought it was just a few months ago. I didn't know it was all the way back in 2015 because Dale. It was like I have to make mention of this or write an article on Dale because his idea was to put together the United Commodore User Group,
right?
UCUG, and it was supposed to be a joining of Commodore user groups around the world into one organization. That was his idea, but the clubs were dying off or dissolving, and at that time, back in the early or middle 2000s,
right?
And it was a good idea, but it went nowhere,
right?
And but Dale was, he had his own computer show out there for several years called the Louisville Commodore Expo.
Mm-hmm.
And I visited that show one year, and it was very nice. And this was before the Commodore Vegas Expo ever got going. But I suppose just by looking at his show, he taught me of how a show should be run. And then actually, the first year of the Commodore Vegas Expo in 2005, he came over to our show all the way across the United States, all the way to Las Vegas, and came to our show to, I guess, inaugurate it. I don't know. He came there with a friend or two, and he was there supporting our show there on the very first Commodore Vegas Expo. So that was very nice of him to come all that way.
Yeah.
I was hoping he would come back, several years in a row, but he never did that. So he only came to the first show, and that was it. Yeah, I learned a lot from those Commodore shows back in the late 1990s or the early 2000s, and I would go to the Louisville User Group show, Commodore show, or I would go to the Chicago Commodore Expo, as it was called back then.
Right.
Or I would go to the one up there in Morris Randall City. His show was called it does not come to mind right now, but yeah, what was his show called? I forget. But I would go to that Commodore show also. And there was a lot of enthusiasm from these people coming out with their new programs, their new demos, NTSC demos. Wow.
Yeah.
NTSC demos, and new hardware coming out, and we were so excited, with all these two new things coming out, especially when we thought, CMD was giving up the ghost and Morris Randall was taking over. Because we thought, Morris would handle it better than another person. Another person was buying. He was trying to get the CMD blessing, to make their goods, And we said, no, this other person shouldn't get the CMD hardware. No, Morris should
bad
get
decision.
it.
Bad decision.
Well, if it went to the other person, that would have been a bad decision also.
Well, I mean,
the other person rubbed people the wrong way, and he would make a lot of promises and not deliver on those goods. And eventually, the rumor is he ended up in federal prison.
Oh, jeez.
What,
so
Morris or the other guy?
Huh?
Morris or the other guy?
No, the other guy.
The other guy.
Okay.
Yes, because I met him at. Yes, I met him at. Let's see. He came over to Jerry Ellsworth. He was trying to hire her. He came over to the Amiga, the Ami World show. Ami World. I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong world. The Ami West show, and tried to tout that he was going to make all these new Amiga, all this new Amiga hardware. He showed up at the Classic Gaming Expo. He just made all of these promises and never delivered on them. In fact, he tried to hire Dave Haney. Yes, I believe it was Dave Haney from Commodore Business Machines. He tried to hire Dave Haney, and Dave Haney was supposedly put on the payroll, but Dave Haney never got any money from him. So because Dave was supposed to develop new hardware, so he made all of these promises. And in fact, I think there's a website up there devoted to this guy's mission out there on his website is to warn people never deal with that guy again.
Well, I mean, I remember from back in the day when I was in touch with you and Dave Moorman and all those other guys. I sent in my CMD Smart Mouse because the RTC, the real-time clock, was broken, and he fixed it for me for free, but it took 8 months to get my mouse back. And then I was reading on the internet about him breaking promises and never delivering stuff.
Well, yeah, I'd heard stories of that too. I knew a couple of people that sent in. They had CMD hard drives or FD drives or whatever that they had sent in to get repaired, sent it in, paid for it, and never got it back.
So I had to call him in his repair shop because what people don't know, he also is a race driver. So he had his phone number of his garage where he would repair the cars, and I would call him like every 2 months and remind him. And Morris would make promises like, "Yeah, you get it next week." I'm like, "Well, okay." So,
Oh yeah. Well,
so
actually,
I wonder.
That's what happened to Commodore Scene magazine in the UK, in England. The person who was doing Commodore Scene magazine, he all these people. Well, he would be the importer for Morris Randall. So he would send money to Morris Randall, and Morris would send over the CMD goods, and the person there in the United Kingdom, he would distribute it to all the English, the British customers. Mm-hmm. Well, he I think the last thing he did was he sent Morris, a sum of money, which was how much was it? Was it 1,000 pounds, British pounds? I forget the exact number, but it was quite a sum of money. He sent over the money, and of course it's changed over into U.S. dollars. But he never received the goods. Morris never sent him the hardware. And of course he waited months and months and months, and nothing ever came of it. And his British customers, there were asking, "Where's our hardware? And of course, the distributor there in the UK, he said, "Well, Morris is not sending any hardware over." Finally, the person in the UK, he had to pay out of his own pocket, out of his own money. He had to pay back all the customers there in the UK, and he just shut down Commodore Scene magazine. He shut down the Commodore importing business because, Morris never provided any product for him.
Do you actually know why Morris never did what he promised? I mean, is there any reason?
No.
Was he overwhelmed with too much stuff? I mean, being a race driver, making wheels, the operating system, taking over CMD?
There is after all these years, there is no good reason. I mean, no one has ever come up with a plausible reason why Morris got out of Commodore. So, because a lot of people were saying, yeah, we could help you out, Morris. We could do this, we could do that, but nothing ever got planned or
Weird.
There was no conclusion. Wrong word to use. No reason was ever given why Morris ever got out of Commodore.
No, so weird. I don't understand it because he knew this stuff. I mean, he would repair my mouse. He would be able to make a new operating system for GEOS called Wheels. He knew all this stuff. So it's not like he has a lack of.
He planned upgrades to the CMD hard drive. He planned Wheels SC, which would be a 16-bit version of Wheels that would run totally within the Super CPU, instead of making this hybrid, which was Wheels, which was really 8-bit. But the new operating system would be totally 16-bit, because that's what the Super CPU is. It's 16-bit. So
right.
He had these plans on the board, but they never came out.
That's such a sad thing. And then the last thing I've read is he actually announced in October 2009 that he's stopping all his Commodore 64 business.
Oh, I did not see that.
And
I don't remember him ever announcing it.
Yeah, well, that's just what I found out. And actually, most of the stuff like GEOS and even Jiffy DOS and all, even this Swift Link, which was also distributed by CMD, most stuff is now done by Jim Brain, actually.
Let's see. Jiffy DOS is done by Jim Brain and one other person who received licensing for
Copperlight
Jiffy
Computers does Jiffy DOS, I think. I think there's actually a couple of people doing Jiffy DOS. There's more than just two.
Oh, okay. And of course, there are SwiftLink clones that are out there.
Right.
No one has ever been able to replicate the Turbo 232, though.
That's not true. Jim Brain actually sold one. That is a replica of that.
One.
One.
And actually, he's now working on an improvement. I know that because our webmaster.
I heard about that, but it is not widespread knowledge that there's a run of Turbo 232s out there, because I think it was supposed to reverse engineer the Turbo 232, but isn't there a chip on there that was hard to redo again because it's not around anymore? That was the feeling I got. So,
well, actually, that's
why the SwiftLink was easy to replicate, but the Turbo 232 took longer to do.
So on his store of Jim Brain called Retro Innovations, he actually has a link to it. It's called this replacement of the CMD Turbo cartridge is called Link 232 UART cartridge.
Because Link 232 is different than Turbo 232.
And he says it's a replica with the exact functionality of the CMD Turbo 232. However, since the T232 requires a programmable logic devices to support 100% functionality, we decided to simplify the design and support SwiftLink compatibility. As the SwiftLink compatibility is a relatively simple design, replicating the functionality was not a difficult process. We took the opportunity to improve the design in one small way, memory mapping. While the original SwiftLink claimed all 256 locations in the output-input memory map of the C64, the Link 232 reduces that to 16 locations. So he writes it's an enhanced version of the Turbo 232, and he's actually working right now on a new, even more improved batch.
I don't know. Well, okay, because previously, what was his name? Hamill. Okay, I remember his last name because his name is the same as the Star Wars actor. Star Wars actor. No, not Mark Hamill, but his name was something Hamill. Okay, so the previous person who did the SwiftLink 232 clone, he put out his clone, and also he put out another board called Link 232. I mean, okay, and Link 232 is supposedly a simpler device than the SwiftLink 232.
So actually he's working on the Link 232 UART cartridge, and he even put out Eagle schematics and PCB files, so you can make your own.
Okay, the proof of the pudding. The proof is, if this is really a Turbo 232 cartridge, is to run a super CPU through it. Because the super CPU with a TurboLink 232 was supposed to get up to 230,000 CPS throughput through the device, which is much faster than any other device. If you want something going that fast, transferring data. So I said, 230,000, okay, very good. So that's the test. That's what I say. Test it out with a super CPU. There you go.
So, as it writes, he's actually working on it. So,
okay.
If that is true, then there should be one out soon.
I know of another engineer here in California who's working. Let's see, he has his own SwiftLink clone or a Link 232 clone over here in California. I believe he sells on eBay also. So he shows up at Maker Faire every year. His name is, and I'm forgetting his name, he's an Italian person who lives here in California.
Don't know.
Well, I can't remember right now.
So in this interview, we heard a lot of stories from all the strange people in the scene. It's interesting because we interviewed all of them in the podcast.
I've gotten myself into a lot of trouble now. Okay.
Well, I don't know which side of the story is true. I just like to hear all the different sides. Mm-hmm. I can't tell who is telling me the truth or not. Right. Fortunately,
it could be just
I never had an issue with anybody.
People remember things differently, so everyone could be telling the truth,
That's true.
Well, fortunately, I never had a problem with anybody. I never got screwed over by Morris, Jens, or anybody else. I always got my stuff that I paid for. So I was always lucky.
Yeah, I've gotten screwed over by hardware people, software people, people who make promises, people who don't keep promises, various companies. I'm good. Okay, that Amiga accelerator, one of the first ones, like back in, what was it, the late early 2000s. Yeah, I went to England and I buy these. No, it was 1998. Right, it was the World of Commodore show in London, England, in 1998, and thousands of people were there, and it was one of the last big Amiga events that ever happened, with thousands of people being there, because now Amiga shows here in the United States, or at least, well, not in the UK, but here in the United States, Amiga events are very tiny. But in the UK, back in 1998, it was giant. It was huge there. And I remember two companies there. They were selling accelerators for the Amiga 500.
And I know the name of one of the companies. It would be Phase 5.
No, I didn't buy from them. I bought from other. Well, maybe.
But I can tell you why I know.
It was a Blizzard. I bought a Blizzard 1240.
Yeah, and I can tell you why, because 3 years ago, an Austrian guy in Vienna created a company called Phase 5.
Yeah, but we're talking about back in
made-
like the 90s, way back
Yeah,
when.
but let me finish. And this guy from Vienna that created Phase 5 actually made a campaign on Indiegogo to get keycaps remade for the Commodore 64.
Yes. Okay.
And everybody was like, "Aren't you the same guy that screwed people over about this Blizzard accelerator card for the Amiga?" And everybody's like, "No, that's a different company." So, but it has the same name, Phase 5.
Okay.
So everybody was like, "Oh, we are
change the
going to be screwed again."
Phase 5 Reloaded. There you go. The new Phase 5. There you go. Something like that. But yeah, I bought some accelerators there, or one accelerator and one other piece of hardware from two different companies there at the World of Amiga. I'm sorry, I'm getting my names mixed up. World of Amiga show, because World of Commodore is different. Because I went to the World of Commodore show back in the middle 1980s, and there were tens of thousands of people there at those shows in California. I went, whoa! So, but the World of Amiga show in 1998, I was there in London, England, and I'm trusting. As a trusting person, I'm saying, oh, okay, I'm going to buy these accelerators, and I don't have to do. You guys don't. I'm from America, so don't charge me the VAT. Please don't charge me the VAT. They said, no, sir, we have to charge you the VAT. Just go to the airport and just tell them, claim the VAT there, and they'll give you your money back. And both companies told me that. And I asked them specifically about VAT, and both the companies said, "Oh no, just go to the airport, go back to London Gatwick or London London Heathrow, and as soon as you go there, you'll get your money back." So, being the trusting person I am, I went back, and I packed everything up, and I was ready to leave back for the States. And I go up to customs. I said, "Okay, I bought these accelerators. Here are my receipts. Give me my money back." They said, "No, sir. You have to have paperwork from the company." I went, "Huh?"
Wow. Okay.
But they told me just go up to the airport, I'll get my money back. They said, "No, you have to get paperwork from the company and do it this official way." And I thought to myself, "No, this will take several days. I'm here at the airport right now, ready to leave on my airplane." So, and I remember emailing one of the companies saying, "You guys lied to me, and I didn't get my VAT, my money back." They said, "Well, no, this is what we have told you, and if you mention any of this out in public, then we'll be very angry at you."
Wow.
They were threatening me. They were threatening me not to make mention of this. I went, "What? What kind of company is this?" So, but both companies in the UK are out of business now. So I said, "Oh, good. They serves them right for screwing their customers."
You destroy my picture of everybody is happy and fair in the Commodore 64 universe.
No. The Commodore 64 scene is a mess sometimes.
Oh yes. Well, yeah. I mean, it goes back. I suppose it goes back to the 1990s. I remember going to the World of Commodore show. I believe it was 1985 at the Disneyland Hotel in the Los Angeles area, right there in Anaheim. And the World of Commodore show was a big show. Commodore business machines had taken up a lot of space at the Disneyland Convention Center, and they had all their booths out. And this was 1985, and I walked up to the CBM people, the representatives right there, all behind their tables. They're looking very, they're in their suits and their ties and their dresses there, and I asked them directly. I said, "Okay, I bought myself a Commodore 128, and this is 1985. I bought myself a Commodore 128, and I asked them directly. I said, okay, you guys came out with the Amiga 1000. Are you going to support Commodore 128 in the future?" And, of course, they got angry at me and looked at me very, very angrily and said, "Of course we'll support the Commodore 128. Well, a few years later, of course, they discontinued the Commodore 128.
Yeah, too bad.
So even back then, I was not getting the straight story from them. So I'm going, oh, okay, oh well, okay. They continued with the Amiga. They stopped they stopped the 8-bit stuff, except for the C64, which went on till 1992. And with the new books coming out by Brian Bagnall, from stories
the Amiga,
I hear, I'm going, oh, you mean this is why the Commodore LCD and the Commodore 9000 never came out, back in 1985, because CBM only had money to put out 2 machines. They did not have money to come out with 4 machines at the same time.
Yeah.
So the LCD, the little laptop that I saw at a show, I said, oh, look, there's the Commodore LCD. Oh, when that comes out, I'll buy it. And I saw that at another World of Commodore show. But I was too scared to touch it because it was a prototype. My friend who was next to me, he touched it, but I never touched it. I said, oh, I'll buy that. But, of course, the LCD never came out. The Commodore 9000 never came out. The Unix machine, it never came out because Commodore threw all of its money into the Commodore 128 and the Amiga 1000.
Too bad.
And that's the same story I got for the Commodore 65, because the Commodore 65 was supposed to come out in, what was it, 1991?
Yeah.
It started development in 89 and was supposed to come out in 91, I believe. And Commodore only had so much money, and they said, okay, are we going to come out with the Commodore 65, or are we going to come out with the Amiga 600? And they threw all their money at the Amiga 600 and killed the Commodore 65. So that's the way it goes. I went, oh, okay.
Yeah. A 600, which was essentially the exact same thing as the 500, just smaller,
right,
versus a
smaller and
a
built-in hard drive, an option for built-in hard drive, and of course it had its little PCM-CIA port on the side, which a lot of people liked.
Right.
But otherwise, it was just an Amiga 500, except smaller. Well, actually, Commodore wanted to save money with the Amiga 600. No.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
right. The Amiga 600 cost a little bit more than the Amiga 500 to produce. Mm-hmm. So Commodore CBM was not saving any money there. Wow, bad decision there.
Yeah.
Too bad.
So we talked about your beginnings and all this. What makes you stick with the 64 and the Amiga and all that after all this time?
I like talking, being around the computers, looking at all the new developments coming out for them, and explaining to people this is the way it was, this is the way you can get back into Commodore. I like doing that. I think that's, I'm a retired teacher now, so I suppose I'm taking the position of a teacher now. Going, okay, here's the history of the machine. This is the future of the machine, and we have everything in between there. So I guess I'm in a teaching role. That's why I like going to Maker Faire and showing people this is the way it's done. You can get back into it. These are the new developments coming out of Commodore or out of Amiga. That's why I still do, the Commodore Vegas Expo or the Pacific Commodore Expo. It was interesting. We had our first Pacific Commodore Expo last year up in Seattle, Washington, and a lot of these people are not Commodore fans. They're just museum goers. They're going in to look at the old computers in the museum. And I would tell them the stories, and they said, we didn't know about that. We didn't know there's still new hardware or software coming out for the Commodore. We didn't know there's new hardware and software coming out for the Amiga. And I said, yes, there is. There's still quite a community out there. Get back into it. Get involved in it.
And we should also take into account that there are a lot of youngsters, being under 30 and learning about the news, about the old stuff before they were even born, you know.
Right.
So, for example, I'm talking to somebody who is 20, and he's an expert in repairing CRT TVs, you know. And that is something that's also a dying out art, because most radio and TV technicians don't have this job anymore, because there are no CRT TVs anymore. So the TFT TV guys are more like computer guys, you know.
Right. If any of our monitors go out over here for the two clubs I belong to, I just bring the monitors, you know, the CRT monitors, over to Ray Carlson, who's like all the way up in Washington State, 900 miles away. When I'm up that way, I go, "Here, Ray, here, have some more monitors to fix. There you go." And of course, he's the good old television repair technician. He knows how to fix them. You know, wow, it's good to have Ray around. But even Ray every time I visit Ray, the last like 2 or 3 or 4 times I've visited him, and I see him like 2 or 3 times a year when I drive up that way. He says, "Robert, do you know of anyone in the world who will take over what I do?" I went, all your knowledge, Ray? Everything you understand about Commodore? I don't see anyone taking over your spot, because he's in his 70s now, early 70s, and he's thinking of the future, and he's thinking about, you know, all of his equipment he has there, and all of his tools, diagnostic tools, and who's going to take over. And I see no one right now who can take over the knowledge he has. I mean, there's no one as knowledgeable.
Yeah, that is why I think it was impressive that this guy is 20 and said like, "Oh, no problem, I fix CRTs constantly, even for the hospital nearby and for other people. I'm doing it regularly. I can fix any CRT almost." Like, okay, so come here, fix mine, you know, because mine has a little picture problem, you know. He says, "No problem."
One of the members of the Southern California Commodore and Amiga network, one of the members down there, he is an engineer, a hardware engineer, a computer hardware engineer, and he's pretty knowledgeable. He can work on Commodore and Amiga stuff down to the motherboard level, rebuilding traces on the motherboard and figuring out, you know, which components are dead, even on complicated Amiga motherboards. I mean, wow, he could figure these things out. Well, maybe he's the guy to replace Ray in the future. I don't know. I gave him an old MSD drive a month or 2 ago, and he diagnosed it and fixed it. He said, "Oh, Robert, all these capacitors that were leaking, they had to be replaced on the MSD dual disk drive here, and then this regulator was not putting out the proper voltage. That's why the MSD was not reading and writing correctly. But I replaced that regulator with a more modern regulator there, and all the traces that were corroded away by acid from the leaking capacitors, I had to, you know, I had to wire them up with little tiny wires, you know, jumping the traces there, connecting the traces so that they would connect up again." I went, "Wow, that's a lot of work there. That's like down to Ray Carlson work right there." Just tried to get this MSD working.
And is he also in his 20s?
He is in his, I believe, upper 30s.
Okay. So you see, there are young guys that can take over. You just have to find them.
Right.
I mean, I don't care if the person who repairs my TV is 20 or 50 or 60, as long as it's working and he knows what he is doing and not blowing it up and making it worse. I'm fine with anything, you know.
That's right. Just get it working. That's it may not look pretty. It may not look pretty, but as long as it's working, that's my goal. I'm good. I'll just get it working.
Well, I mean, it's just a thing. Nowadays, you have Google, you have Wikipedia, you have YouTube. You can actually relearn some of the stuff if you try hard enough.
Some of it, but a lot of it also takes intuition. Just knowing that. This is where to look for it, or what's wrong with it, because well, yeah, some intuition some intuition fails if you're not if you don't have the knowledge of how the machine works. Like I took Ray Carlson. Ray Carlson gave me a PET 8032. He says, Robert, I don't work on Commodore PETs because they are just too old. I have all the manuals. I can't get replacement parts anymore. This 8032 I cannot get working. Here, you could have it. You could put it in the raffle at the Commodore Vegas Expo as a non-working machine, and maybe you can get some raffle money for it to support the show. So this was 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. And at that time, I brought in one of the CBM engineers. And one of the CBM engineers, he had worked on the Commodore PET and the VIC-20.
Okay.
So he came to the show. He was our guest at the show, and he told stories about the early days of Commodore business machines and about Chuck Peddle and about designing the Commodore PET and the VIC-20. It was all very interesting. And of course, the video is up there on YouTube. But throughout that weekend, I said, here's a PET 8032 that we're going to auction off. We're going to raffle off. He says, I'll work on that. I said, huh? But you're supposed to enjoy the show. You're not supposed to work on this machine all weekend. No, he said, I'll work on it. And he enjoyed working on that 8032. He saw it on Friday. He kind of got it going a little bit on Saturday where it would come up with the screen. And finally, by Sunday, it was all repaired. He said, Robert, I had to replace 2 chips. I had to jump this trace over here. And I went, what? That you got it working? It's fully functional? And he just knew. He said, well, the flow of current goes this way. It inputs this way, it outputs this way, and I was just not getting the proper way it was flowing through the system. And I told this story to Ray Carlson, and Ray Carlson says, oh, I wouldn't know that because I didn't design the machine. Only a person who designed the machine would know that's the way it worked. So it took a CBM engineer to figure out what was wrong with the PET 8032, and we were just fortunate to get it going again. I said, up for raffle, here it is, fully working, It was the most amazing thing I had ever seen. But I said, you didn't have to do that. He said, no, I enjoyed working on the machine. It brought back a lot of memories. Okay.
Nice. Well, that's the way it is. Well, hopefully our devices keep on working a little bit longer.
That's true. Just keep them running. That's what I say. And, well, of course, with the Ultimate 64 and the C64 Reloaded board out there, hey, they'll keep on going, except under a different way, they'll keep on going. Anyway.
Yeah, that's actually true. Yeah. So I wonder.
I keep thinking with these new boards coming out there, with all these FPGA solutions coming out there, for the Commodore 64 or for the Amiga. I keep thinking, well, yeah, they have their hardware emulations out there. I'm thinking, well, yeah, they with the Ultimate 64 or with the C64 Reloaded, there should be a mode in there where you could accelerate them. Yeah, just change the code or download some new code into there, and you can have an accelerated C64 or
Isn't that what the Amiga 65 guys are trying?
Well, no, the Mega 65 guys are trying to make
Are you talking about the Mega 65 people?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they also allow to boost your machine in a different mode and so on, I think.
Are you talking about the Vampire people, or are you talking about the Mega 65 people?
No, I'm talking about the Mega 65 people.
Oh, Mega 65. That's what I went to. That's what I went to Germany last September for. I said, "Oh, I'm here in the UK. I only have 1 day in the UK, and I have to fly out to Frankfurt and get over to Maker Faire Bensheim." I'm pronouncing it wrong, I know.
You're pronouncing it correct. Bensheim, it's correct. Yeah. Okay, don't worry, you're doing it right.
Okay, I am okay. But I went there because I was expecting to see Mega 65 there. So I get to the show. no Mega 65. I went, oh, I wasted all my money, which is basically $500 to fly from London Gatwick to Frankfurt, get a hotel, and then and then fly back, and there was no Mega 65. I went, oh, okay, oh well. Oh,
you can't
but back to the story. Back to the story. Yes. So Mega 65 they're using a very fast computer, a very fast implementation, a very fast FPGA board. But of course, it'll be just clocked down to what the Mega 65. What the C65 is supposed to be running. At that speed. What's the C65 supposed to be running at? 3.5 megahertz, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, around about that. Yeah.
So they're just going to run it at a slower speed. But of course, I guess you could clock it up if they have a reason to clock it up. Which reminds me, I have to invite Paul Lassa, who showed off his C65, his Commodore 65 #1, serial number #1. He showed it off at the AmiWest show last October on Friday night. I went, oh, I'm looking at a fully functioning C65 serial #1 in front of me. And he ran the C65 demo disc. I went, oh, the C65 came with a demo disc? What? And he's running that in front of the crowd of people there with our mouths wide open, and it's displaying all these images in C65 mode. We're going, holy cow! Look at that resolution. And then he turns it into, he turns on C64 mode. He drops it into C64 mode. And we're going, holy cow! Look, there's C64 mode right there. And I had to invite him. I made him the invitation to come to the Commodore Vegas Expo, and hopefully he'll accept my invitation. Say, Paul, remember back in October you said you were interested in coming to Las Vegas. We'll pay for your hotel and your flight. You want to come over to Las Vegas and show off the Commodore 65 and be one of our honored guests because you were a CBM engineer who worked on the Commodore 65 hardware?
If he's saying no, I'm more than willing to take the spot.
But of course, I would tell him. I would say, do not leave your C65 in the room. Always take it with you every night back to your room. Do not leave it in the exhibit hall because that is a most valuable machine there.
Yeah, that's true. I don't remember for how much it was sold, but wasn't
like $18,000 or some ridiculous amount.
Yes,
for one with that, it didn't work. It had no. It didn't have the custom chips that it needed, and it's not like they're making them. So
the VIC 3 was missing. Yeah. So 18,000 for non-working version.
His was fully working. I did ask Paul about that. I said, Paul, did the Mega 65 people contact you? I mean, for advice on their design. He says, well, they contacted me initially, but they haven't recontacted me for anything else. I went, oh, okay, I guess they don't need you. They're just going on, the way they want to go on. Okay. It would be nice to be in contact constantly with an original, Commodore engineer, but they don't want to do that, so okay.
Well, I can't comment on that. I mean, the 2 times we spoke to them, they seem to have a pretty good idea of what they need to do. Didn't sound like they had no idea what they were doing. So I'm confident it will be a good product. But it will be an interesting run. Jens Schoenfeld with his Reloaded, then Gideon Schweitzer with his Ultimate 64, Mega 65. There are a lot of clones coming out. And the C64 Mini.
When the Mega 65 does come out, I will buy it because back in the day, in the early 1990s, I wanted to buy one. In fact, I called the Grapevine Group up in New York State. I called them from California. I said because they were still advertising in the Commodore magazines that we had here in the States.
Wow.
Grapevine Group. We have C65s in stock. So I called them up. I said, you have a C65? I'm ready to buy. And they said, no, we're out of stock on them. I went, oh, okay, never mind.
Out on stock. Well, they never have been properly sold, so.
That's right.
Good
because
joke.
The Grapevine Group was just a reseller of hardware, of obsolete hardware, of hardware that did not sell. Right.
Interesting.
They would sell old machines like what was it, like B128s. Yeah, pick up a B128 for cheap. But a B128, of course, back then I didn't have an interest in a B128. Of course, nowadays I have a B128.
Well, if you knew back then that the stuff was valuable so much 30 years later, you would have bought tons of them,
That's true. See, we did not know back then.
Yeah.
So, oh well, hindsight is just that. You can't go back. You can only go forward. But when the Mega 65 comes out, yeah, I'll be ready to buy, because I wanted to have a C65 back then. In fact, I was telling back then I was telling my friends. I said, "Oh, if the C65 comes out, I'll buy it right away." And of course, it never came out.
So here you goes to your second chance.
That's right, my second chance.
Yeah. That's actually a good question. So what's your next plan?
My next plan? What do you mean?
Besides getting a Mega 65, do you have any plans what to do with your hobby? Any goals? Anything?
Any goals? Well, let's see. My goals right now, I'm just thinking as I usually have. I'm going to make our fair in May, Pacific Commodore Expo in June, and Commodore Vegas Expo in August. So those are my three goals right now, just to get ready for those shows, to have something to exhibit at those shows, to make sure everything is organized for those shows, and so that, especially with the Pacific Commodore Expo and the Commodore Vegas Expo, since those are the ones that I organize, I make sure there's a lot of stuff to entertain the people coming in, that they're well taken care of, that they come away from the show with a good experience. So that's what I want to have done. Hardware-wise, I don't know.
If you like.
Hardware-wise, I'm not thinking of hardware. I'm thinking of, if the hardware comes out, if it's good enough, then I'll buy it. So like last year, the Vampire 500 came out for the Amiga 2000 and Amiga 500. I said, "Oh, okay, I'll buy it. It's out." Okay. So as soon as hopefully when the waiting list on the Ultimate 64 is better, hopefully I'll get a Ultimate 64. I'm still hoping. Gideon just has to fulfill the first 100 orders, and then he says, "Oh, I'm going to make another run of 400 of them after that." I said, "Okay, I'll be in that second run of Ultimate 64s." Hopefully.
I got one of the last first spots, fortunately.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
But sometimes I think I need a second job, so I'm able to buy everything retro because there's so much coming out.
I can't have everything, so there is a limit. So
yeah, that's a problem. So, any plans regarding your user group?
Let me think about that. No, again, we have our Fresno Commodore User Group once a month, so we meet once a month, and then we do have the Southern California Commodore User Group that meets every 2 months. So we have, I have 2 meetings to go to in March, one in Fresno and the other one in Southern California. So that's 2 user groups to go to. I am picking up a lot of software and hardware from people who are, in the last few months, they're getting out of Commodore due to old age, and they just want to give their hardware or software away.
Wow. Okay.
So I have to drive around and visit the Los Angeles area or the San Francisco area and say, "Okay, I'm here. I'll pick it up. I'll distribute it to our club members." And of course, if the club members in my groups, if they don't want the free hardware or software, then I said, "Oh, okay, this is more stuff to bring over for the Commodore Vegas Expo. put it on the freebie table, or put it on the table to sell for a few dollars, so we can make
Nice.
up some money for the show, because the show is very expensive to put on, especially Las Vegas, for a little 900. Okay, I'm using square feet for a little 900 square foot room. It's like $1,900 for 2 days. I went, whoa, the price is very high, so we have to pay for the room so we could stay in the black, so we don't go in the red. So it's hard trying to break even, trying to stay solvent. It's hard to pay off for a $1,900 room. So
we actually
with our tiny show.
Actually, we never spoke about that, but these user group meetings, what is a typical day looking like?
The Fresno Commodore User Group, we have about, our user group meeting is about 8 to 10 people. And it's not like the Netherlands Commodore Show where they have 100, 120 people come to their every 2 months to their meeting there in the Netherlands. No, we have our little 8 to 10 people who come in and to our user group. We start at 11 in the morning. Usually we go till 4 or 5 in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And people, some people trickle in later. Some people leave early. But yeah, we usually go that long. For a Southern California meeting, we begin at 2 in the afternoon, and we usually have about 8 to 10 people will show up for that also. We start at 2 in the afternoon. We're out of there by maybe about 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. We do not go as long as the Amiga User Group in Melbourne.
Okay.
Because I visited Australia.
Wow.
I visited Australia a couple of years ago, and I went to their user group meeting. They start at 2 in the afternoon. Okay? So I'm thinking, this will be, a few hours. I'll be at this user group meeting. And the Amiga User Group of Melbourne, Australia, they are into Amiga and the C64. Okay? So even though they're called the Amiga User Group of Melbourne, they're into 8-bit machines also.
Okay.
So I'm at my hotel. I'm waiting for a ride to get to the user group meeting because the weather is terrible. I come at the very end of the Australian winter.
Okay.
And it's just raining and the weather is cold. And
see.
And I wait for my ride. My ride finally comes. I get to the user group meeting. I'm going, oh no, I'm here at 3 o'clock. I'm 1 hour late for the meeting. Sorry, I'm here 1 hour late. Here's some California chocolates. I put it on their snack table. Here are some chocolates here, all from California. Eat the California chocolates. And I'm there from 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And of course, their meeting started at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But no, their meeting went all the way till 2 o'clock in the morning. I went, what? This user group meeting went on for 12 hours, and I was there 11 of the 12 hours? Holy cow.
So it didn't really matter that you were late 1 hour. Yeah.
That's right. I went, wow, that is the longest user group meeting I've ever been to. And of course, people would come and go. Some people would show up late. Some people would leave early. We'd go out for a little bit of food to eat. We'd come back to the user group meeting. People were still there, playing on the computers. I went, wow, okay.
It's impressive that the computer's not giving up after so many hours.
Oh, well, let's see. My friend Darren Stewart, he had an Amiga 4000, which became burning hot. I said, Darren, this is not normal. Your hard drives right here, they should not be toasty hot. They should not get this hot. I'm sorry. Maybe you should look into the solid state hard drives or to make your Amiga 4000 last longer, because these things are just unbelievably hot. They shouldn't be that hot. Yeah, I see.
Okay, Robert. Well, so I would say thank you very much for so many stories. Oh my God, this was a lot we talked about.
It was too much.
Well, there's never too much. It was interesting to listen to.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for taking the time.
Oh, you're welcome. Now it's time to take my mother off to the Chinese New Year celebration before they close.
Okay. Enjoy. Have a good time with her in the celebration.
Okay, thank you. You too. And have a good time wherever you are out there in Germany, and AJ, wherever you are also.
I'm in Maryland, so I'm a little bit closer.
Oh, you're in Maryland? That's no problem.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for taking the
Have a
time.
good
Nice
one.
talking to you.
All right.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.